around this great country from Los Angeles up to San Francisco and New York and Philadelphia and Washington with our friend Niels. But we got our football hats back on, and, of course, the Ravens headed down to the Dirty D in Dallas where the Dak Prescott thing's going on and the Tony Romo thing's going on. Here's a guy that played some football. Now, he's won some national championships and, of course, spent time with us here in Baltimore. He won that other championship down in Washington. We don't talk about that around here. But we welcome a Baltimorean, not by birth, but by choice. We welcome the great Joe Washington back on here. Joe, I'm still trying to find one of those tearaway jerseys from that New England game back in the day, man. How you been?
Hey, Nestor, I've been pretty good. But you know what? When you mention those jerseys, look, right before they outlawed those jerseys, they must have ordered 100 dozen of those doggone things. You know what I mean?
Well, you and Earl Campbell and Billy White Shoes used to always get them ripped off your back, right?
Hey, I'm telling you, man. And as soon as they ordered them, they made them illegal, and I don't have a clue. I think I have maybe two. But other than that, I don't have a clue what they did with those.
Well, they didn't make them very long. Let's be honest. It was only a couple of years in your era. That was it, right?
Yeah, but like I say, the when they outlawed, made them illegal to use, because they made them illegal to use, that particular year, we had already bought 100 dozen.
Well, Bob Irsay wasn't going to be ordering new jerseys, right? I mean, he didn't have that kind of money, did he?
Well, hey, he didn't. Hey, He claimed he didn't have that money, but, hey, he had those jerseys now. Whether he tried to sell them or send them back to, make them into something else, I don't know. But all I know is we had 100 dozen of them.
Joe, what's amazing, I know we're going to talk about your book, and Joe Washington has a book out. It is called The 7 Secrets of the Silver Shoes. We're talking about it for the holidays, but it's always great to catch up with Joe. I run into Lydell Mitchell around town, and I don't think I met Lydell until I was 40, and I rooted for both of you, right? I mean, I cheered. It is kind of amazing that when I think of one of you, I think of the other because of that era of football and what it represented as a 8, 9, 10-year-old kid here in Baltimore.
Well, hey, first of all, Lydell was the mainstay and cornerstone of the Baltimore coach. Offense. He led them in receiving and rushing, and with a few $1,000 difference, in opinion. Hey, he gets shipped off to San Diego for me. Now, granted, he thanks me to this day for, being involved in that trade because he got a chance to play golf every day. But, that trade should have never been made.
Well, I mean, it's 40 years later, and both of you guys still have a strong, strong identity with Baltimore, and I do run into you guys around town. I know, but you're traveling all over the place, and I know promoting this book as well. I've written a couple of books. I'm 48. I've done 25 years on radio now. People always ask me to write down some memoirs or tell my stories or whatnot, and I think books are becoming a little passé. Even our new president doesn't read books famously, which I find to be sad. But you've written this book, and for anybody that writes a book, I say it's not about making money. It's not about New York Times bestseller and all that stuff. It's just about having a voice and wanting to have your story told. And in your case, you lived a pretty full life. You've done a lot of things in the football space as well as in your post-football life, Joe.
Well, I've been around, of course, at this particular point, a long time. I never dreamed of being 63 years old, especially as a kid growing up in Texas, rooting for the Baltimore coach. And then, of course, getting a chance to play with the Baltimore coach and seeing all of my heroes, Lenny Moore, Johnny Unitas, Raymond Barrett. I mean, I got a chance to meet the guys I grew up rooting for.
And those guys stood on the sidelines rooting for you once you got here.
Let me tell you, and after every game I eat at Johnny's place, Bobby Boyd, who played here at Oklahoma. I mean, it was, that particular time for me was, indescribable. Even though, we didn't win as many games, for me, it was one of the most important and happy, and let's put it like this, it was one of the most groovy times of my experience in, of playing and being a part of society, because I got a chance to be in a place that I dreamed about all the time because of the coach. Never dreamed I'd ever even get close to being in Baltimore, but yet I'm there playing and rubbing shoulders with these guys that I rooted for as a kid.
Well, I know you wrote a lot about, the Switzer era and playing football out in Oklahoma. And, obviously being a Texas kid crossing the border to go play in Oklahoma as well. Tell me about the 7 secrets of the Silver Shoes.
Well, the way this book came about is I wanted to do something like a coffee table book. I wanted to take the easy way out. I wanted to, I had a lot of pictures, a lot of buddies, I had a lot of pictures and snapshots of myself. And the only writing I wanted to do, Ness, was, hey, writing the caption of this picture here. Look, this is Joe Washington and such. We are at this place. Hey, that was the extent of the writing that I wanted to do. But I found my accountant, put me with a publisher. And he had ideas of biographies and all this stuff. And I told him the only way I could write a bio is a lot of people have to leave town first, if you know what I mean. So I knew that was
some stories could never be told.
Yeah, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
And should never be told.
Exactly. There you go. Should never be told. Not, stay somewhere. They never be told. So he convinced me, about, writing, about my life lessons, especially because my dad was my high school coach. I had some unbelievable coaches, especially, Barry Switzer, my dad, Ted Marchibroda, who I love to death, because one of the reasons I love Ted is because he and I are about the same height. And he was the only coach I really had that we could really see eye to eye, if you know what I mean,
Yeah, when we lost Ted last year, I mean, that was very sad for me. He was always so kind to me and would always sit down and really talk football with me. We were of different eras. And, hey, Joe, much like I sat as a kid rooting for you on the sidelines, it was my dad and, Hey Diddle Diddle Lydell up the middle and Burt Jones and the Sack Pack and Roger Carr and all those guys you played with. I mean, Marchibroda was my first coach as a kid, right?
Hey, exactly. So, writing this book, it gave me a chance to just expound on some of the things that, basically influenced my life, as a kid growing up in Texas, during the 50s and 60s, my dad being a coach, that particular life, some of the things he basically, experienced, the lessons that my mom basically instilled in, my brother and my sister that, she didn't necessarily teach. She was just one of those people that, said certain things, that look, and you knew exactly what she was talking about. And really, Ness, for the most part, what I talk about is something that every person experiences as a kid, one way or another. And these lessons I talk about really aren't any secrets because we all experience them. I just basically reinforce them, tell them from my point of view, include, some stories that influenced my life that happened, especially, during my, my career, or whether it was high school, college, or the pros, or this person I met, or that person I met. Everything basically was the same as far as my thoughts and learning and experiences as a kid. And my mom used to always tell me, hey, being the little precocious youngster that I was, getting into trouble, like, slipping off from home when they told me to stay home when they had the football game down the street. Hey, if there was a ball bouncing somewhere in the neighborhood, I was there. Whether my mom or dad told me I couldn't go or not, too bad. I'm on my way down there. So because of that, I had to, the switch a little bit, or the strap. And before my mom would yield one swing at me, the first thing she would say is, boy, you knew it was wrong when you did it. And for most of us, that is true. Hey, anything that we do that's kind of out of kilter of what should be done, hey, we knew. And I've always experienced that. But I will say the one thing those whippings helped me with were my moves. My mom had, boy, let me tell you, my mom probably hit herself more than she hit me because my move at that particular time.
Well, I mean, there was a benefit to you being rather a smaller guy, right? And I don't know, how many times did people come up to you and tell you you couldn't do it because you weren't big enough, you weren't tall enough. You certainly were fast enough. I mean, everybody realized that. I would think that after you got tackled, every time you got tackled, it was a guy bigger than you tackling you who looked over you and said, and don't come back here anymore, right?
Hey, not only that, hey, to be honest with you, hey, most of the officials were bigger than I was. I don't think any officials they had during those days were, even smaller than I was. So it was always a challenge at each level, high school level, college level, and of course in the pros. But it concerned me, but it didn't concern me. But I knew it was going to always be an issue. When you have guys that are 6'2", 210, and then you look at me at 5'9" and a half, 172 pounds, you have to kind of sit back and decide whether, is this going to work, or are they going to report me to the Humane Society for, being abusive to a young football player.
He is Joe Washington. The book is The 7 Secrets of the Silver Shoes. Talk about the silver shoes. You can Google it. You can buy it out on Amazon. Of course, if you sign up through our GiveASpit.com app, it helps our friends at There Goes My Hero through Amazon as well. Silver shoes. Give me the legend of that. And certainly there's a lot of Oklahoma in this story, right?
Well, you know what? Yes, but then no. I think, my wearing silver shoes and the whole, thought process behind it had really everything to do with the relationship between my little brother and I. My brother is, I was a senior, he was a sophomore. We grew up, coach's kid, and the only thing that we ever really wanted to do was play together and play for our dad. That was it. That was our goal in life. After that, everything was icing on the cake, Nestor, and we did get that particular chance. So when I decided to go to the University of Oklahoma, one of the key things with us as kids was before we started playing for our dad, we were his trainer. We did everything: wash the clothes, tape ankles. We go on the field, with the towels and the water bottles, for timeouts. We did it all. But all of that was really just basically the prelim of us getting the chance to play for our dad, which is what we wanted to do. Now, the key thing with me at that particular point was I had this thing about football shoes. Hey, I knew every shoe. I understood what they were made of, how they were made, or whatever else, and I watched what every other guy that played the sport, what shoe he wore, especially every running back. So, for whatever reason, with me, it was shoes. And during the 70s, everybody wore black shoes. Oklahoma, one of the few teams, especially in collegiate football, wore white shoes. Not only did the players wear white shoes, their whole staff wore white. And that struck me really as something, this is neat. This is different.
Only the Oakland A's wore white shoes in baseball, right? And they had all of that flash. It was right around that time, early 70s, right?
Exactly. And believe me, that made a very, very large impression and deep impression on me. So,
it was the first sign that disco music was coming, Joe. Let's be honest.
Hey, not only that, but it was a prelude to the floppy shirts and the platform shoes. You know what I mean?
You were alive and well during a very fun time, I must say.
Absolutely. Hey, matter of fact, the music went right in step with the beat of running with the football, man, if you really ask about it.
Turn the beat around, right? There you go. I hear you.
And for the most part, on my iPod and all that stuff, I got nothing but 70s music. You know what I mean?
I go over, Jimmy Smith, the cornerback from the Ravens. He said he listens to his dad's music. And so I always tell Jimmy, when you control the jukebox inside the Ravens clubhouse, it's some Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's some Teddy Pendergrass, some Man Manhattans. He's got the, what else he's got going on? Heat Wave. He's got all that stuff playing there. And it's 2016. This is, it's better than some of that other noise these kids are listening to.
Well, I tell you what, hey, it makes me proud. Hey, he's going up another 5 notches in my dog.
There you go.
Just hearing the music that he listens to.
It's true.
So.
It's Jimmy Smith. It's true.
That is awesome. Hey, that is awesome. So, hey, them wearing those shoes made a difference. And my brother decided that I should wear. I mean, he just came to me one day after I decided to go to Oklahoma and said, Joe, you know what you ought to do? I said, what? And what are you talking about? He said, you need to paint your shoes silver with red shoestrings and red stripes. I mean, this is just out of the clear blue sky.
Have you ever seen anyone wear silver shoes at this point or no? I mean, in the NFL now, we've seen it all, right? We've seen pink shoes, gold shoes, silver shoes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, nobody. Hey, the closest were, of course, Joe Namath's wearing white shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Lenny Moore spatting his shoes. Hey, now, that initially caught my eye as a kid. But no, nothing. I mean, are you kidding me? So him, venturing, off to tell me that this is what I should do when people are barely wearing white shoes, they're barely wearing tape on their shoes. And for him to say that at this stage when I wrote the book, it really dawned on me what that was all about. And in the first chapter, I tell the story. I tell the whole story about, what it meant. And it really boiled down to the relationship my little brother and I have always had. And the mere fact, too, that, you're talking about a sibling, normally coming up with an idea that he would keep himself as opposed to giving to someone else. So that's how the book starts off, how the whole silver shoes and the fact that I wore them, that I painted them myself, and the idea of what it was all about, and the spirit of it all for the most part, is discussed in the first chapter.
He was a hell of a tailback. He's Joe Washington, playing, of course, for the Chargers, then the Colts in the late 70s. In 1980, went off to the Redskins. We forget about that part. We're not going to bring up those championships. And as well as the Atlanta Falcons at the end. And, of course, out of Oklahoma. And I almost went to Nebraska this week. Terps played Nebraska this weekend. My wife's a little under the weather. I'm going to lay back and go to Dallas on Saturday instead of going to Nebraska on Friday. But I've always wanted to see a game out in Norman. Always want to see a game out in Lincoln. And we're going down to Dallas this week. I know you're still following the NFL and what's going on here. Some thoughts about the Ravens. I mean, you live in Baltimore most of the time. You're around here. You're known as a former Colt. The Ravens have done so much to take in the former Colts and sort of blend it all together over the last 2 decades. And I see you around town once in a while. But, this Ravens thing catching on here over the last 20 years, it's got to make a guy like you feel good that Baltimore's back on the map, that you're here and still a part of it to some degree. And this is, not the greatest season in the world, but we're alive. We're in first place, sole possession of first place. It's an interesting season so far.
Well, first of all, Ness, and everybody, that loves Baltimore felt and still feel that it was a crime for Baltimore to go any period of time without a football team. Are you kidding me? When you think of Baltimore, hey, you think of the Baltimore Colts, you think of NFL football, you think of all the legends, and here they are without a team for a number of years. Hey, that is the most, that is, I can't even, my vocabulary is too limited to even come up with a word to explain, it's criminal, man. It is actually criminal. And I love the sport, and one of the things that, that really impresses me even more so is the fact that, the owners of the Ravens understand, and of course, Shadi, who's, been there a long time, they've embraced us. They acknowledge the fact that, the coach or the foundation of what, they are building on. They are what, the Ravens are aspiring to establish, over the lifespan of history. So
you know what was really neat is I had this young man from Germany save my wife in town last week, and I walked in past the Johnny U statue and the Ray Lewis statue. You know what I mean? And I said, you know, two different teams, same era, you know, one past the other, and here are these statues, and this represents the old and the new, and bringing it together in one place. And I think he understood that coming from the outside.
yeah, and I tell you what, and with the type of fans that you've always had in Baltimore, hey, it's deserving that it is like that, and the mere fact it's a signal of how it should be. Hey, and the mere fact of how the stability over all these years and the fan support. It's been passed down, and basically it's in the water that you drink here in this particular area.
Went from blue to purple. He is Joe Washington, the 7 secrets of the silver shoes available out there. You can also follow Joe out on Twitter as well. He's out there at OU Silver Shoes on Twitter as well as LinkedIn, and doing some good work out there and speaking and moving around the country. Also has a website, Joe Washington OU. Joe, always great to catch up with you, man. I appreciate the visit. We'll tell everybody about the book for the holidays and whatnot. Don't be a stranger around here, okay?
All right, Nils, you take care and appreciate it, man.
You got it. Joe Washington, Baltimore Colts legend, joining us here on WNST. I'm around all week. I'm headed to Dallas this weekend, and, of course, Luke will be on the backfields out in Owings Mills, bringing it all to you. Any breaking news that happens with the Ravens or with the Orioles, because we are into that offseason now for the Birds, it'll come to you first on the WNST text service. That, of course, brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Our dear friend Dennis Colossus will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home, getting you ready for the weekend. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That is powered up by Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com. Subscribe to that on the front of WNST.net. And anything you miss around here radio-wise, you can find in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault. That's where we put it all. You can download the TuneIn Radio app and listen live from anywhere. It's all brought to you by buyatoyota.com. Monday night, we're out at Buffalo Wild Wings in Owings Mills doing our best seat in the house competition. We got our limo provided by Fully Loaded Transportation, as well as our blazing wing eating challenge at halftime. So we'll see you at B-Dubs in Owings Mills every Monday night. That is where we are. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our YouTube and Facebook channels. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.